It is a bourbon-esque whiskey. It's got the same flavor components. When you add water, it brings up the malt influence more. I would be really interested to try this next to their Bulleit Rye.
What is up, folks?
Hey guys. It is Scotch for Dummies.
We're guys in the Scotch journey to help you with your next Scotch journey, but this is not Scotch.
No, this is an American single malt.
Out of Kentucky.
What? This is Bulleit, though.
Bulleit.
And they're not known for that either.
No, Bulleit Rye is what I use in a restaurant to get an old fashioned, but this is Bulleit American single malt.
This is new.
It is new, 45% ABV. It is aged in new American oak barrels, so that's a little bit bourbon-esque that they're using new oak.
True.
But it's all American single malt, 100% malted barley. They use their same stills that they use for their bourbons, but they do run it out at a little higher proof because they can, because of American single malt. So they do.
Can we just say it's nice to see bourbon lovers and stuff going to the American single malt?
It is.
It's pretty awesome. Good for you, American single malt. Good for you.
Right?
Yeah, that's the thing. So there are a few distilleries that are starting to do this. The reason I saw that is I was looking through the Jack Daniels, because apparently Jack Daniels has an American single malt, but in my liquor store they don't have it there yet. But I saw this sitting there, like right up by all the bullets. I'm like, oh, that's the one. Let's pick it and let's taste it.
So if you are into Bulleit bourbon and rye, etc., that's normally rye and corn. This is 100% barley.
100% malted barley.
All right.
All right.
Let's do it, boys.
And does align with the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission's guidelines of all the rules. This one meets it.
What's our price point on this bag?
This is about $60, $65 depending on where you are.
Okay.
All right.
To the nose?
Not
the nose.
an age statement too.
Well, it's pretty sweet on the nose, actually.
Oh, it's a weird mix between that, the typical bourbon nose and a little bit of
I got a little bit of like a licoricey thing.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that would come out of the rye, but
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
but it's not. This is 100% malted hops.
A grassy note and a little bit of brine too. A little bit of salt.
There's a lot of like fresh cut wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost like balsa wood, like a fresh.
So, which it's new American oak barrels, right?
That's what you'd
So,
expect.
There you go.
To the palate, boys.
Let's do it.
Wow, you can definitely tell it's a bourbon influence. I mean, it's a bourbon tasting still.
Yes.
Wow.
So it has a lot of that new oak bourbon flavor. That's heavy into it.
Sweet.
Vanillas, caramels. Yeah.
This would be a good crossover for people
It
that
is.
are normal bourbon drinkers, because you're going to get
sure.
that familiarity of the new oak, because I get all the vanillas and some brown sugar.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of grassy notes in there, a lot of fresh wood. It's bright and vibrant. It's actually pretty nice, really.
Those grassy notes typically are more from the barley, though, right? Isn't that because you don't normally get that in a bourbon?
No, but usually you get that from. I associate like licorice with rye notes.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's just like the way the stills are. I mean, obviously they clean the stills. There's no residual
For sure.
from a previous batch, but I don't know if it's just kind of maybe the way they cut this, and they're used to cutting a certain way because they're used to dealing with rye whiskeys or bourbons, and so that may have influenced the final product as well.
I think it's a little bit viscous on my lips. It leaves a little bit of an oily feel, which is interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
I would say if you're used to their other products, I think this would fall in line in the family somewhere. I don't think
would
that it would
agree.
be anything that was like, oh, well, I'm used to drinking Bulleit and I grabbed the wrong bottle and this doesn't taste anything.
We
like
did say
what I would.
it's the same process.
Yeah, I mean,
they changed nothing other than the ingredients used to make it.
They do pull the distillate out at a little higher ABV.
Okay.
So it is a little bit different, but it's the same still, the same column still that they use for all their other.
They're bottling at the same ABV as the.
This is 45%. I don't know if they does that. What they do.
I know the bourbon is 45.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know.
Like,
So we need to add water
I
too.
haven't added water to yet, but the second going in, I mean, it's almost eucalyptus or something on the nose, some kind of like
Okay. Well, that's
licorice he's talking about, maybe.
It's very pleasant.
So when I add water to this, I do get more maltiness. I get it brings down some of the vanilla and the caramel, and you get a little more malty on the nose.
I mean, it does bring up some of the malt.
Get more biscuit.
It's it's a little bit creamy.
Biscuit's good.
Yeah.
it did lose some of the vanilla notes and a lot of the like raw wood that I was getting out of the flavor profile. But yeah, it's very nice.
I think I like this better with water. It brings it more to my wheelhouse with scotches.
Keep going.
Because it has more.
Keep going.
Going. All right. So this is a pretty good whiskey. When you first take it out of the bottle, it is a bourbon-esque whiskey. It's got the same kind of a lot of the flavor components. When you add water, it brings up the malt influence more. I would be really interested to try this next to their Bulleit Rye or even the Bulleit Bourbon, because I'm interested to understand the complexity of that. For $60, it's 45% ABV. I think it's not too bad. I would probably give it a 2.5 because I think it's definitely an easy drinking whiskey. I think it's worth tasting, and I think it's something that we should continue.
Okay. All right.
You said what? 2.5?
2.5.
I'm with you on this. I think
All right.
you said it earlier. I think it's an interesting. It goes both ways. It's good for the bourbon people that don't know much about American single malt. It's also good for Scotch people that don't really like bourbon so much. It's just kind of like both ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually appreciate this. I still get a little bit of that bourbon influence. I'm not really too fond of, but it's not bad. Overall, sweetness is great. It's got a little bit of complexity to it. I think it's a little high in the price, but not too bad, honestly. $60. American single malt barley stuff takes a lot of work. So I'm gonna give this a 2.5 as well, actually.
Okay.
So I'm torn because I think this is honestly a pretty well put together whiskey. And I think it is a good crossover. This would be a really, really good one. I know we've talked a lot about like, oh, well, you should, that bourbon guy that wants to try, Scotch or single malts, like this would be a good one. Like this is literally
the
like
crossover.
Stepping stone.
Yeah, it is the crossover.
They're going to get like kind of, familiarity from both things. Like I get the bourbon-esque and a hint of the rye qualities out of this. But then you put water on it and it brought up a lot of the malty notes. So I enjoy that part of it. $60 seems reasonable for an American single malt.
ASMs, that's pretty typical.
But if you're a bourbon drinker and you're used to drinking, like it might be pushing it a little bit to try something new. I get that. But I don't think you're going to be disappointed in the bottle. Like it is actually very pleasant, neat, and with water. It was good both times. I don't find anything particularly negative about it, but I also didn't find anything that I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like it's just a really well put together basic whiskey.
Yep.
So I'm leaning towards a 2. Like I don't find anything off-putting about it. I think it's a really good middle of the road.
Okay.
And for $60, I think it might be a little expensive for some people.
Yep, that's fair.
I'm shooting towards your number here. I think neat. There was more to offer for me. I definitely think it had some, you could taste the new oak, right? It was there. Actually, it took a little bit for that to even come through in the first nosing. I didn't get that. I got a grassy note. It finally came around. It was a decent palate. Nothing blew me away. It had the new oak in it, which sometimes is a little bit overbearing. That's kind of one of the things I'm not fond about in bourbon. I got a lot of grassy notes. I did find it interesting to get a little bit of viscous on my lips, and it was a little bit oily. Water killed it for me.
Really?
I didn't think so. Interesting.
Water didn't bring maltiness out on it. Water just flattened it, and it kind of pissed me off because I wanted to get the malty note. That's my jam. But I do think it's a decent whiskey, and I liked it neat, and I like the ABV point of it. It's drinkable neat. I'm glad and excited to see Bulleit getting into this market because American single malts are where it's at. It's coming, right? So you start seeing these big guys start doing it.
Yep.
There's a hint.
That's a good sign.
But I'm going to stay right at a 2. It's a good initial offering for them. It's a first step for them. All the things you guys said, you're right. It's the stepping stone for both directions, and I appreciate that. I'm glad you found it because I didn't know it was out there. And this is really cool. This is what we're trying to
check
get.
for it every time, and it hit today. So,
There you go.
So 2 for me.
From what place?
Palos in Indiana.
Oh, there you go. Good job, Payless.
There you go.
So 2.2, 2.5.
Yeah. 2.225.
Can you do that, Matt?
Yeah.
Bulleit.
Bulleit, American
Cheers.
single malt.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
1.